Dear students, you have two books for Political Science plus 1. Indian Constitution at Work, this is book 1, and Political Theory, this is book 2. Now, for the topic to start with, from the book 1, Indian Constitution at Work, we will be starting chapter Rights in Indian Constitution. Why? Because rights in Indian Constitution is a topic which everyone has once read since 8th onward class. So I will be starting with the topic chapter number 2, Rights in Indian Constitution. Rights in Indian Constitution. Introduction part. First of all, everyone must understand the meaning of rights. Rights are what are your demands, what you feel like it is my right. Like at home, if we take the example, you have right to ask from your parents, I need pocket money, or at some age you are demanding a mobile, or some may demand bike. So this way you feel it is your right. But with the right, you have some duties also, which we will discuss as per the NCERT topic being here, which we have to study. So when we talk about rights in Indian Constitution, it clearly means we are talking about the rights which are granted to every citizen of India in the Indian Constitution. So Constitution is not only about the composition of various organs of the government and the relations among them, but Constitution is a document that set limits on the powers of the government and ensures a democratic system in which all persons enjoy certain rights. So everyone who is a citizen of India has been given certain rights which are fundamental in nature, and they are guaranteed to every Indian who is a citizen of India in the Indian Constitution. So the limits on these rights are there, and moreover in the past 50 years the scope of rights has changed. Some rights they have been expanded, or in some rights there have been certain amendments being done, or some things have been omitted or deleted. After studying the chapter, you will be able to know that what are the various fundamental rights which are listed in the Constitution of India. Number 2, how these rights are protected. Like if any of your fundamental right get violated by any other person or any institution or any other way, then how you can protect your right. Then what role the judiciary has played in protecting and interpreting these fundamental rights for you. Last, what is the difference between fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy? Like fundamental rights you own, and there are certain directive principles of state policy which we are going to study in this chapter, and once you finish the chapter you will be able to know answers of all these things, and all these concepts will be very much clear to you. Importance of rights. What is the importance of rights for us? Let us understand with the two examples given in your NCERT book. In 1982, during some construction work for Asian Games, the government engaged few contractors, and these contractors they employed further large number of poor construction workers. Like poor construction workers, they will get work and they will get cheap labor. This was the main concern, and they employed them from various parts of the country to build flyovers and stadiums. Why? Because Asian Games were to be held. These workers were kept in poor working conditions and were paid less than the minimum wages decided by the government. Now, Here, students, what you are finding, like certain right is being violated. Which right? Like they must get proper wages and poor working conditions should not be there. Another example, if we see Michael Lalang, he was 23 when he was arrested, and he was a resident of a district in Assam, and he was charged of causing injuries to someone. For that he was arrested. But now, as you know, if someone is arrested, he must be get a trial. But here he was found mentally too unstable, means वो बिल्कुल भी ट्रायल देने के काबिल नहीं समझा गया उसको, because he was mentally unfit. So he could not stand trial and was sent as under trial to Lok Priya Gopinath Bardoloi mental hospital in Tejpur for treatment. Like as he was found mentally unstable, so he could not stand trial, because for trial this is the first condition, that the person, he should not be mentally sick, he should be mentally fit. So for his mental illness and for getting him stable mentally, he was sent to hospital in Tejpur for the treatment. Now what can be the another thing? What would happen then? He was treated successfully. Obviously, when he was treated successfully, he was mentally stable, and even doctors, they write in their report that he is able to stand trial. But this was written twice by the doctors in the jail to the jail authorities, like in 1967 and 1996. Can you make up the gap? Like how much gap is there in the years? Now from here, let us get what we really need to know about our rights. Then, but no one paid any attention, means jail authorities, they did not pay any attention, they did not bother that he is in hospital for treatment and he should now be stand for trial. Michael Lalang remained in judicial custody. Then he remained in judicial custody only, and he was released in 2005. Now see, 1967, then 1996, and then 2005. So when he was arrested, he was 23 years of age, and when he was released, he was 77 years of age. Can you make up the difference here? For 54 years, a man he has spent in jail under custody, during which his case never came up for hearing, means he was never ever tried. So in this example, we have seen that just for small injuries causing to someone, a man has to spend 54 years, precious years of his life under custody, during which his case never came up or for hearing. He was freed when a team appointed by the National Human Rights Commission intervened after an inspection of under trials in the state. Now students, if you observe in both the examples, the very first example of construction workers, a PIL was done and they have been given their proper working conditions as it is their right, and they were now paid properly for the work. And in another example, Makala Lung case, here the person has to spend 54 years. Now if you can make out, like for the 54 years he was under custody and his trial had never happened. If his trial had been there, then maybe he might be given just some small amount in the form of fine, a punishment of certain months in the jail. But as his trial was not done ever, so he has spent 54 years of his age. Otherwise, if he would be rich or powerful, maybe he would have not spent so many years in the jail, because maybe he was not having money or he cannot hire any a lawyer for him, so he has to spend 54 years, and that is a big number in spending such years, such precious years of life, and that too for just a small grievous injuries being caused to someone by him. Now his entire life was wasted in this example, if we observe. Because why? Because a proper trial against him never took up. It never took place, and our constitution gives every citizen the right to life and liberty. So in this example, if we study that here he was having right to get free and speedy trial, but his case shows, this illustration shows, that what happens when rights granted by the constitution are not available in practice. So these were the two examples showing the importance of rights. So these rights, they are the limits for the government even, or for working of government, but rights for the people are important. Like in this example we have studied that fundamental rights, they are very important for any person living there. It's very important that every citizen should know their rights. So rights, they are very important in one's life, and especially the rights which are granted to every citizen in India, that is most important, and one must understand the importance of rights. Both the examples which I have discussed, they show the importance of having rights and their actual implementation of the rights. So a democracy must ensure that individuals have certain rights, like the government must ensure and recognize that the rights are granted to the citizens. So it is a practice in most democratic countries to list the rights of the citizens in the constitution itself. जो rights हैं, जो rights citizens को grant किए जाते हैं, वो एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में लिखे होने, उस देश की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में लिखे होने ज़रूरी हैं. एंड सच अ लिस्ट ऑफ राइट्स मैंशनड एंड प्रोटेक्टेड बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, वो राइट्स जो मेंशन किए गए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में और उनको प्रोटेक्ट किया जाना, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में लिखे गए हैं, जो वहाँ के किसी भी देश के लोगों को ज़रूरी है कि वो राइट्स इंजॉय कर सकें, इज़ कॉल्ड बिल ऑफ राइट्स. सो बिल ऑफ राइट्स जो है वो प्रोहिबिट करते हैं गवर्नमेंट को फ्रॉम एक्टिंग अगेंस्ट द राइट्स ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल्स. इवन गवर्नमेंट कैन नॉट टेक दोज राइट्स फ्रॉम यू, ओनली इन सम स्पेसिफिक circumstances where it is a threat to the national security, and moreover you can say a national emergency is there, only that time your rights can be taken. But otherwise, bill of rights, they prohibit the government from acting against the rights of the individuals and ensures a remedy in case there is a violation of these rights. So remedy is also available if any of your fundamental rights has been exploited by any of the person or any private organization. In such a condition, like suppose if it happens to anyone, dear students, that time the individual, he would need the protection of the government. So it is necessary that the government is bound to protect the rights of the individual. एक गवर्नमेंट की जिम्मेवारी सबसे ज़्यादा बन जाती है कि वो अपने इंडिविजुअल्स के राइट्स को प्रोटेक्ट करे. एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड, the organs of the government. Now you must know that there are 3 organs of the government which you have already studied in your 8th class and moreover in 9th and 10th also. Let me again tell you the organs of the government. There are 3 organs. Number 1, legislature. Number 2, executive branch. And number 3 is judiciary. And in the country, for functioning of these organs of the government, there should be no violation of rights of the persons, and if any of the right of any individual is violated by any person or any private organization, then that individual is free to go to court and get a protection against any violation of his right. The word fundamental suggests that these rights are so important that constitution has separately listed them and made special provisions for their protection. So fundamental rights are so important that the constitution itself ensures that they are not violated by the government. Means constitution खुद ये चीज़ ensure करती है, उसमें ऐसी provisions लिखी गई हैं for the protection of fundamental rights of the individual that no government of that particular nation can violate these rights. So, fundamental rights are different from other rights available to us. Dear students, you must understand this concept that fundamental rights, they are enlisted and granted to every citizen of India, and they are listed in constitution, and for protection of these fundamental rights special provisions are also made that no government even can violate these fundamental rights which are being granted to you. It doesn't mean that fundamental rights are granted to you, they are not granted to your father or some other person or the Prime Minister of India. These fundamental rights are granted to every individual, be it of any gender, be it of any race, but he is a Indian national. Like while other legal rights, ordinary legal rights जिसको हम कहते हैं, they are protected and enforced by ordinary law. Fundamental rights are protected and granted by constitution of the country. So here you must understand the difference that ऑर्डिनरी लीगल राइट्स, जो आपके लीगल राइट्स आपको मिलते हैं, जिनके लिए आप कोर्ट जाते हैं या एनफोर्स किए जाते हैं आप पे ऑर्डिनरी लॉ के थ्रू, सो दे आर एनफोर्स्ड बाय ऑर्डिनरी लॉ, but fundamental rights, they are protected and granted by the constitution of the country. So ordinary rights may be changed. कैसे? By the legislature. Government ने in the legislature they might have passed some law and it has been changed by making or amending the process of law making. But fundamental rights may only be changed by amending the constitution itself. अब यहाँ पे जो आपको डिफरेंस क्लियर होना चाहिए, जो ऑर्डिनरी राइट्स हैं वो चेंज किए जा सकते हैं, अमेंड किए जा सकते हैं बाय द लेजिस्लेचर एंड बाय फॉलोइंग अ ऑर्डिनरी प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ मेकिंग. जैसे लॉ बनता है उस प्रोसेस को फॉलो करते हुए किसी भी लॉ को, जो ऑर्डिनरी लॉ है उसको एक प्रोसेस के थ्रू हम चेंज कर सकते हैं. लेकिन जो वर्ड मैं अब बोल रही हूँ आपको, दैट इज़ फंडामेंटल राइट. सो ये आपको ध्यान रखना है कि फंडामेंटल राइट्स में ओनली बी चेंज्ड बाय अमेंडिंग द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इसके लिए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अमेंड करना पड़ेगा. सो बिसाइड्स दिस नो ऑर्गन ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट कैन एक्ट in a manner that violates them. So किसी भी ऑर्गन को, there are 3 organs of the government, so किसी भी ऑर्गन को गवर्नमेंट के ये हक नहीं है कि वो वायलेट करे फंडामेंटल राइट्स को. So judiciary has the parts and responsibility to protect the fundamental rights from violation by the action of the government. So you must understand the basic difference between fundamental rights and ordinary legal rights.